it's Burrow, who is a top 3 quarterback in the league. If we're talking about, I don't know, the Cardinals or the Raiders, it's like keeping Geno Smith or Kyler Murray healthy. Yeah, of course you want to keep them healthy. That's their quarterback, and that's what's going to make their team as good as it can be. But they're not Super Bowl contenders. Whereas if the Bengals can keep Burrow upright and their defense can be marginally better than what they were last year, they are Super Bowl contenders because that's how good Burrow, Chase, and Higgins can be.
When I come to your city, I'm a new score. Broke your high score soon as I step through the door. Try to stack my paper up like a bookstore. Money kissing each other like a rock and roll tour. When I come to your city, I'm a new score. Broke your high score soon as I step through the door. Try to stack my paper up like a bookstore. Money kissing each other like a rock and roll.
Hey, Tyler.
How we doing?
What's going on? Welcome to the New Score podcast. We are back week 1 of the NFL season. Tyler, how we feeling?
Blessed. I mean, we back. We're back. We're ready to roll. We got some football last night, so you know.
Yeah, we got week 1 preview. We got picks. We got some futures to talk about for the season. And then, of course, we're going to get into your Dallas Cowboys from last night, losing to the Philadelphia Eagles, ring night 24-20. I want to get into that. And I also want to hear from you because we haven't talked Micah Parsons. You know, I want to know how you're feeling about that, especially after seeing the Cowboys play first game without him. What are you feeling right now? It's been, over a week since they traded Micah Parsons. How we doing?
I think I can say I'm over it. It's not time heals all, they say. So I'm over it. The move, you can see it from both sides. I think if you just take a step back and you're not, trying to just hate on Jerry or, Micah Parsons, obviously one of the best defensive players in the league, but I think it really just comes down to a salary cap standpoint where they're at now versus if they were giving him 45 to 50 million a year, then they'd have 50% of their cap tied up in like 3 players. So it's tough. It's hard to justify getting rid of arguably the best defensive player in football. So, I mean, there's no defending the move, if that makes sense. But I guess, like I said, I can see it from an organizational standpoint and why, why they would make the move. But, it's kind of, if you look back and compare it to like the Herschel Walker trade Jerry made way back in the day, I don't think it's quite the same magnitude just based on, I think, the return. Because you think 2 first-round picks, Kenny Clark. But then I think you got to think, like, what would Kenny Clark go for? What if you were trading Kenny Clark to a team? What would they give up for him?
I think there had to be a 2 or a 3 tossed into that. I think the 2 ones just wasn't enough, even with Kenny Clark. Mm-hmm. I think if you toss in maybe a 3 or a 4, that looks a lot better, for the return.
Right.
But the bright side is, on the bright side, the Cowboys did go out and compete last night. Yeah. Obviously, Jalen Carter incident, spits on Dak before the game even starts. That was crazy. The whole game plan changed after that because you're game planning for Jalen Carter all week.
Mm-hmm.
And now all of a sudden he's not in the game. And that opened up a lot of running lanes. Javonte Williams looked good last night. I thought the offensive line for Dallas did a great job protecting. Dak looked good. I mean, take away a couple drops from CD late in that game. And one was a beautiful ball.
Oh, yeah.
That he dropped, that post route. Yep. That changes the whole complexion of the game. I thought Dak played well. I think O-line looked good. Even, Jalen Carter wasn't there. We will take that into account. But either way, there were a lot of questions there. And there were a lot of questions on that Dallas defense. And Dallas defense showed up second half. First half, they looked like dog shit. Jalen Hurts was just running all over them. And you could clearly tell that they were missing Micah then. But Eberflus got those boys playing in the second half. They looked a lot better.
Yeah, and I never liked to, pin one play or pick one play and say like, yeah, if CD makes that catch on the post route, they win the game. But like, they would have had a lot better chance. That's for sure. I was listening to Coward earlier, and he actually said that same thing. He was just like, yeah, I think if CD catches that ball, Dallas wins. Maybe not. But
and then also the Miles Sanders fumble, huge.
That was huge, right? Yep, exactly.
So those are two critical errors by Dallas right there. And I mean, they were hanging right with Philly all night, held AJ Brown to one catch.
Yeah. I think him and Devontae Smith combined for like under 30 yards or something crazy like that. But it was just, Dallas got bailed out a few times with Philly was sloppy with penalties. And I think that helped Dallas a lot. But yeah, their defense in the second half was, showed a little bit of promise. And I know like Diggs didn't start the game and he kind of was easing back in because he didn't practice much. He's, was off an injury. So I think we're going to see Dallas get a little bit better week to week. And I think this game at least gave some people who were really down on them maybe a little bit different perspective. Like, oh, okay, maybe their offensive line is decent enough to open up some run lanes to have an okay run game. Like I don't think Javonte Williams and that group is going to be a top 15 unit, but at least serviceable to where people aren't like, oh, they're trash. And then Dak is Dak, right? I think just seeing him, even with pressure, just some of the throws he makes, I think will remind people like this isn't, Trey Lance and fucking Cooper Rush. It's Dak Prescott. He can go out there and win some ball games. So, yeah, a little promising start. Definitely a big miss though. That would have been huge to get that win, especially in the division. So that was a big opportunity that we missed there.
Yeah, and even Schottenheimer said after there's no moral victories, but I think the way that people were talking about Dallas going into that game, and then Vegas hangs a 8.5 point spread in a divisional week 1 matchup.
Yeah,
there's constant disrespect, and they very well could have won that game.
Yeah,
the Eagles, they do what they do. They find a way to win in the end. That's feels like all they've done the last couple of years is these ugly games, close games. They just find a way to win in the end, and so they do. And Barkley was held to 60 yards rushing on top of AJ Brown with one catch. It was just they couldn't contain Hurts, so that's what killed them. But it's going to be an exciting divisional race. I expect the Giants. We're going to get into the Giants-Commanders game in a bit, but I expect the Giants to be improved. I expect the Commanders to be good as well, just like they were last year. So I expect that division to be very competitive.
I do want to say one last thing I forgot to mention. The fact that in the first half, Hurts tore him up on the ground, and I don't know if they blitzed one time in the first half or had one spy. And then in the second half, they obviously turned that around. But the very last play before they started kneeing it, of course, Hurts has a 3rd and 4 and runs for a first down without a spy. So again, I don't know what Dallas's game plan was to rush 4 and drop 7 back without having a spy on Hurts. It just didn't make a ton of sense to me. So, I don't know. Just that kind of pissed me off, if I'm being honest. But either way.
All right. Let's move into the Sunday slate. 1 o'clock. Another divisional matchup. Giants-Commanders. Giants, completely different team. Defense looks juiced right now. Top to bottom, front to back. I think that Giants defense is going to be ferocious. They're going to get after some quarterbacks. The question mark is quarterback. Right now, Russell Wilson going into this starter. Who knows how long that's going to hold up.
No.
Jackson Dart waiting in the wings. Malik Neighbors, can he stay healthy? I think this Giants team has got some potential, though. They're sneaky. Their over-under right now is sitting at 6.5. I would have to lean over on that for the wins this season. And then the Commanders, we know they finished last year in the NFC title game. Jane Daniels was incredible rookie season. Dan Quinn, first year as a head coach. Right now, the Giants are getting 6 points on the road. Shout out to Mark and Sharon. They're actually going to this game.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
They're going to DC for a funeral. So
okay.
They're going to this. They're going to this.
Well, rest in peace. First of all, well, shout out to Mark and Sharon. Hope they have a good time.
Are you as high on the Giants this year as I am?
No,
I'm talking about.
No, I'm not. No, I do. I love their front though. I do like their D line. The two things for me with the Giants, and I'm not sure that it's the their backfield, right, on defense, right? Their corners and safeties. I'm not
They
super
just brought
high.
in Javon Holland.
Okay, so that upgraded that. I'm not high
Rookie
on that
corner
group.
from last year was very good.
He was good. So I need to see something out of that group, and then their offensive line. I know they brought in Runyon and one other guy to help that offensive line, but it's like that's the thing. Last year, their offensive line was terrible.
Mm-hmm.
What is the difference between Russell Wilson under pressure and Daniel Jones under pressure? Not much, really, not much. So it's I don't know. I got to see something out of that line. It's which I think, not to bring up the Cowboys, but I think people had that thing about Dallas, right? Need to see something out of their line to feel more confident. I need to see something out of the Giants O line to feel more confident in them. I like Tracy. I like the idea of getting Scatabo involved, but I Russell Wilson is an improvement over any quarterback they had under center last year. Matter of time until I think Dart gets in there, but I'm not as high on the Giants right now. But I think that I don't hope they prove me wrong, but I'm sure they can.
Talking about their O line being shaky, if their O line isn't good again, Russell probably isn't going to hold up health wise. No. So you might get Jackson Dart in there sooner than later, anyways. And I think something that can really mask their troubles on the O line is his mobility, because Dart at Ole Miss was dual threat playmaker, and he could beat you on the ground or in the air. So I'm excited to see the kid play. I would like to see, who's going to step up. What's Darius Slayton at this point in his career? Who's going to step up after Neighbors, or if Neighbors has to miss some time, what are the weapons looking like? And then honestly, I like they got a little three-headed backfield between Tracy, who was good last year as a rookie, Scatabo, and then they also have Devin Singletary too. So, and then I already talked about the defense. I think the defense is going to be really good. It's just how much is that defense going to have to be relied on? Are the offense going to put all the pressure on them or not? But looking at this game, Commanders giving up 6 points, I just think it's too much in this spot. I think the Commanders are going to be really good. They got McLaurin coming back. They traded for Laramie Tunsil. And I think the defense is just going to only get better in another year with Dan Quinn. Commanders are going to be a tough beat all season, especially if Jaden Daniels plays half as good as he did last year. Like, it was just absurd, the rookie season that he had. Running back is a real question mark, though, right now. They traded Brian Robinson. Yeah, Krosky Merritt, the rookie, is he going to take over? How much are we going to get from Austin Eckler, Chris Rodriguez, and those guys? But I think the Commanders are another team where they got to be in that Super Bowl bubble just simply because of how elite their quarterback play was last year. And then you got Debo in there with Cliff. You got McLaurin. How good is that run game going to be, though? And is that O-line going to hold up with Laramie Tunsil in there now? I just think 6 points is too much. We talked about this. You and I already talked about this with the Cowboys, Eagles. with 8.5. It's just too much for divisional matchup week 1. We don't know what anybody is yet. We're just kind of throwing darts right now and seeing where they land, seeing where they fall. We don't know how good a lot of these units are just from the
Mhm.
stories that we hear in the offseason. That's all we know. And then what we saw last year. I just think 6 points is too much, especially with what that Giants defense is going to be, I think. And I think they're hungry. I think it's just Dable's fighting for his life right now.
Yeah.
Can I interest you in the Giants +6?
Yeah, I could say I'm interested in it because I think when it comes to hanging a number 6 or higher, right? Um, you generally like to take the plus side of that, especially if you're not super down on that team that's getting the points versus the team that's hanging it, right? So that's the thing with the Giants right now. It's just I'm not again super confident in the secondary or their O line, but I think if you are, from your perspective, then 6 looks great. You want to take that +6 all day. But if you're not, and then you really do feel like on the Commanders side, Jaden Daniels is going to keep that same level of play that he had last season. He's not going to have that Stroud regression, and the Commanders, with the additions that they did make, are just going to take another step. Then I think the -6 for Washington looks really attractive. So I am going to stay away from this one, at least as far as the spread goes. I think, you know, maybe if anything, I take the over. What's that total sitting at?
45.5.
Yeah, because that's the tough part. Is I said it. I really do love the Giants' defensive line. Their front is really tough, and I think that's going to help their secondary out. So I don't think that you know, and like you said, another year under Dan Quinn. So it's like I'm not really down on either defense, but if that secondary is not as good as some people think for the Giants, then I think the Commanders could expose them. But I don't know. I'm kind of staying away from this one.
All right. Next one. Another divisional matchup. Love these week 1 divisional matchups.
Why not?
It's going to get feisty out there. Cincinnati Bengals, Cleveland Browns. Joey Burrow going into a season with T. Higgins back, Jamar Chase out there
Healthy.
after a historic season last year. They got Chase Brown coming back as a running back who really burst out on the scene last year. They brought back Gesicki. They also brought in Noah Fant, tight end. Defense, they got Trey Hendrickson coming back after all the drama all offseason, not looking like he was coming back. They gave him an extra 14 mil, I think, for this season. And then they're just going to end up where they were last year after the end of this season. Real question marks on that defense. New D coordinator. Lou Anarumo is now in Indy. And that's all you really have to say about the Bengals is how good is this defense going to be? Because if this defense can just be average, Tyler, that's it. Just decent with what you're getting from Burrow and that offense where, people are talking about he might throw for 5,000 yards this year. Again, it's all about that defense. If they can just be average, this is a Super Bowl contender. This team's going to be, in it in the end if they can just get some production. And then obviously the elephant in the room is Burrow just staying healthy. If that O-line can hold up, there's always question marks on that Bengals offensive line. He's got to make it through the season or else, they're not doing anything. And obviously you could say that about any team, but his value to this team, we've seen how good they are with him out there and just how bad they are without him.
Well, yeah. Well, go ahead.
And then Cleveland side of things, over under right now for the season on wins is 4.5. So nobody's expecting anything from this team. The quarterback is Joe Flacco going into week 1. Who knows what you're going to get from him at this point in his career. I know he played really well with Stefanski a couple years ago. But it's like at this point in his career, what are you really getting out of him? And then they draft Judkins in the draft, and he's nowhere to be found right now. We don't even know the status. We don't even know if he's going to play this year. Then they got Hampton, the rookie, as well, and Jerome Ford in the backfield. Jerry Jeudy is really he's number one threat on that offense. Him and Njoku. Njoku and Flacco, though, they do have great chemistry. We'll see what they can do. I'm not feeling good about the Browns this year, though, Tower. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on this game? And then, obviously, the Bengals and Browns in general.
Well, I guess I'll start with the Bengals and kind of echoing everything you said. And the difference, though, between when you mentioned keeping Burrow healthy, and obviously that goes for every team, right? But the difference with this team is that it's Burrow, who is a top 3 quarterback in the league. If we're talking about, I don't know, the Cardinals or the Raiders, it's like keeping Geno Smith or Kyler Murray healthy. Yeah, of course you want to keep them healthy. That's their quarterback, and that's what's going to make their team as good as it can be. But they're not Super Bowl contenders. Whereas if the Bengals can keep Burrow upright and their defense can be marginally better than what they were last year, they are Super Bowl contenders because that's how good Burrow, Chase, and Higgins can be. And don't forget about Chase Brown, who I think a lot of people are high on, especially on the fantasy side of things, because he's going to get a lot of more touches this year. But with that being said, last year, correct me if I'm wrong, did they win their last 6, or was it like 5 out of their last 6 to end the season last year? And they just needed a little bit of help for someone to lose to get in the playoffs, and then they would have made it real interesting, I think.
Yeah, because it was between them and Denver in the end. And then Denver got a break because the Chiefs rested their starters.
Oh, that's right.
Chiefs rested their starters. Broncos pretty much got a free win out of it, which eliminated Cincinnati.
Yeah. So, their defense did show strides, and they went on a run towards the end of last year, and I think they just kind of take that momentum, come in, keeping Hendrickson is huge. So he's kind of the anchor of that defense in a way, just because I don't know that they have many other good players on that side.
And you got to avoid the slow start. Every year has been a slow start for them. Mm-hmm. So this is a good opportunity. You're going against a Browns team where nobody's expecting anything from.
Right.
So Joe Flacco versus Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
Like this is a spot. I mean, last year they lost to the Patriots, so week 1 in Jacoby Brissett.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about starting fast so you don't fall behind, and then one loss ends up costing you in the end, where you have to rely on somebody else, right, winning or losing to get you in.
Yeah, they got to have that sense of urgency coming out, and I think at this point that's the elephant in the room, right? Is the slow start, and I think they know that inside the locker room. The Browns, yeah, I mean, what is there to be excited for if you're a Cleveland fan, or if you're just an NFL fan and you're watching a Browns game? Without Judkins playing, I feel like that's the one guy that could be that spark to the offense. Otherwise, it's what Jerome Ford and company. So I don't know that there's too much, again, to be excited for from the Browns. Right now, the number's 5.5 for the spread between the two. It is in the dog pound, so they are playing in Cleveland. But does that matter? I think if you like Joey Bag of Donuts, and you like that Cincinnati offense, I think you're comfortable taking -5.5 in this, regardless if you're on the road or not.
Yeah, I'm going to stay away from Bengals Browns just because, I mean, it seems like the easy pick to take Cincy.
Mm-hmm.
Just giving up 5.5, so winning by a touchdown. But there's just so many weird things that I've seen week 1 and week 2 these last few years in Cincinnati. I'm staying away. I can't do it.
I did also just write down pass for this one.
Mm-hmm.
So also an X factor that's not really an X factor is Kevin Stefanski. I just think he's a great head coach. So it's hard.
Great head coach, and the Browns defense is. I mean, they got some guys on that defense too.
No joke.
Offensive line's good.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows? Just one of those week ones. Can't pull the trigger on it. Very interesting matchup. This next one. Pittsburgh Steelers opening up against the New York Jets. The schedule makers they love the drama. They love the drama.
Mm-hmm.
Justin Fields going against his former team and Aaron Rodgers going against his former team. So 2 quarterbacks with something to prove to the other
Why wait?
sideline. Rodgers obviously feels slighted that Aaron Glenn didn't even, want to bring him in to compete for a job. He just said, no, we're good.
Is that what
Made
happened?
Rodgers fly across the country. Yeah, Rodgers flew across the country to go to the Jets. They basically sat down and they said, we're good. They had him fly across the country just to say, no, we're good. So there's definitely some
Oh,
animosity there. And then
professional.
Fields getting his job essentially stripped from him last year by Russell Wilson after I thought he played well in some games for Pittsburgh.
Mm.
This is very interesting. Over under sitting at 37.5, which
Ew.
is right on the money. I mean, this is kind of like the 17-14 game or like 16-9 game, something just ugly, low and ugly for this game is kind of what I'm feeling. So maybe teasing that number up a little bit, taking the under. As far as a side, I have no idea, Tyler, what to expect from this new look Pittsburgh Steelers, new look New York Jets team. I mean,
Well,
it's completely different from a year ago. We expect the Steelers defense, we expect the Jets defense both to be really good units. Steelers made all these moves, and then the Jets brought in Aaron Glenn to a team that was already pretty stacked on the defensive side of the ball. It's what do we expect though? Rodgers hasn't really gone out there in live action. We don't know, like, and at his age, is it going to take a slow start, especially in a new system, new guys building chemistries with DK Metcalf and all these other guys? I just think it's going to take some time. And I think it's going to take some time for the Jets to just figure out what's this really going to look like with Justin Fields out there? Are they're going to pound the rock 40 times a game between quarterback, running back, Fields, Breece Hall, Braylon Allen, and just try to pound teams with that offensive line, which we think is going to be improved. We think is going to be better. But then Elijah Vera Tucker just had a crucial injury this week, so he's going to be out. Going against TJ Watt in the Steelers defense, I expect this game just to be low and ugly. I don't really want to take a side at all. And even with 37.5, that number, I think the under is still very much in play here.
yeah. I'm not too far off from where you're at. I think that I guess I'll start with Rodgers. He's healthy, right? I don't expect him to have a slow start. I think that if Dak coming off of an injury, not seeing any preseason time, and then looking good right away against Philly in a divisional game, I think that Rodgers with a bit of motivation here. He's just a veteran. He knows what he's doing. He's been doing it a long time. I expect him to come out firing right away, and I also want to address. I think he, not undeservingly so, but I think he got a little bit more hate on his performance last season than he really deserved. I think that he had a solid year. I really do. The Jets overall were just not a good team. And when you fire Salah mid-season and you bring in, I don't even know who the interim coach was. I forget his name. Like, what do you expect? So,
Worst coach, them in Chicago were easily the worst coach teams last season.
right.
It was just a mess. And to your point, the second half of the season, I think Rodgers was, I think you look at his numbers, he had like top 10 numbers just going off the second half of the season. He was a top 10 quarterback, I believe.
Yeah. And go ahead.
He's still got the arm. It's just the big thing right now is the mobility. And
Yeah.
offensive line has been a problem in Pittsburgh. So it's like if he can't hold up, if that offensive line can't hold up, Rodgers is not mobile like he used to be. I've seen some clips of him, dropping back in the pocket. He looks old. And He still can sling it. He's still got a great arm. He still has all, the mental side of things for playing quarterback. It's just, is that offensive line going to hold up, give him enough time and protect him? And if they can, the Steelers team can make some noise because they got weapons and they got a great defense. And you're blending just two football masterminds, Aaron Rodgers and Mike Tomlin, pairing those guys together. It could be a deadly force, or it could go really bad. I don't really see any in between. And I would say going 8-9 with all of the hype that they've had going into the season would be really bad. I think if the Steelers don't win 10 games this year, I think it's a letdown with the amount of the moves. You bring in DK Metcalf, sign him to a massive deal long term, giving up George Pickens. And then you bring in Jalen Ramsey, you bring in Jonnu Smith, you bring in Rodgers, draft a running back, Johnson behind Warren. You sign TJ Watt. I mean, everything is there. You bring in Darius Slay. I think if you don't make the playoffs, I think it's a big disappointment for Pittsburgh, especially with this potentially being Rodgers' last season. So
yeah,
I'm not. I think it all depends. Like I said, it's hard to give a prediction on what this team's going to do this season because we don't know if Rodgers is going to hold up and be the quarterback for the remainder of the season. And it's the same thing we're going to talk about with the Rams and Stafford. It's like if their guy can hold up, this team is in a Super Bowl bubble and they can compete until the end. Well, that's what it's going to come down to. Like I said, I'm avoiding a side on this. I like the under. Maybe tease the number up a little bit, but playing the under, the Jets are going to be feisty. They're going to be Aaron Glenn's going to have that defense playing. They're going to have, all of these different sorts of blitz schemes to try and get after Rodgers. It's going to be an interesting. This is one of the games that I'm circling for Sunday. The Steelers Jets game, even as ugly as it could be, it's going to be really physical, and I think it's going to be a fun watch.
I tell you what, give me the Steelers minus 2.5. I think that's the line right now. It's either 2.5 or 3.
I'm seeing 3, so tease it 2.5.
You give me 2.5 because I think if you get Rodgers, you give him a little motivation on the road in New York where he just was last year. You know his mindset. That's when he takes it up a notch, right? Is when you can give him a little motivation, and I think that he can, even with some offensive line woes, like just what Tom Brady did towards the end of his career, just fucking get that ball out quick, and I think that, again, all the moves that Pittsburgh has made, and Mike Tomlin is one of those coaches in the league. Just talked about Stefanski. Tomlin's one of the best coaches in the league, and I think they're going to make it work. So, it might take them time to get to peak, but I don't really expect a slow start. So yeah, give me Pittsburgh in this one.
Arizona Cardinals going on the road against Spencer Rattler and the New Orleans Saints, giving up 6.5 points. Over under is sitting at 43.5. I really like the Cardinals this week.
How could you not?
Giving up the 6.5? I think I'm willing to do it. And it's like Kyler Murray, he's let us down in the past with big numbers like this, just because sometimes you don't really know what you're getting with Kyler. It could be really good or it could be really bad. I just think the Saints are another team. I'm hammering the under on wins this season. I think it's sitting at 5.5 right now, 5.5 or 6.5. Either one, I'm taking the under, even if it is 5.5. Whether it's Rattler, we don't know anything about the rookie Tower Shuck, but if he doesn't beat out Spencer Rattler, who was pretty bad last season in the offseason, then it doesn't. I don't feel good about him. And he's 25-year-old rookie.
Yeah.
The Saints are they were unwilling for a lot of years to, after Drew Brees is gone, they were unwilling to kind of say, all right, it's time for a rebuild. We're going to tear this thing down and then build it back up. They just kind of held on too long with these salary cap. They've been in salary cap hell for
Yep.
years, just trying to kind of hang on and stay competitive. But I think it's really hurt them in the long run. And now they got some players that on the roster that they could have gotten some real value for a couple years back, and now they just aren't the same players anymore. So I think it's going to be a long year for the Saints fans. And I know we said the same thing last year. And then the first 2 weeks of the season, they just came out and absolutely lit it up. And then week 2 against your Dallas Cowboys, hanging, I think it was over 40 on them. And it was like, wow, all this shit we talked about this team in the offseason, and now they're out here doing this.
Yeah.
I feel pretty confident, pretty comfortable in saying that this is going to be a long season for the Saints. You gotta have good quarterback play, and sometimes great quarterback play to win on Sunday. And I don't think the Saints are going to get that. 6.5, 7.5. I don't care. Give me the Cardinals. This is a team that I really like this season, and they're in a tough division. I feel very high on the NFC West this season, probably higher than others. I think Jonathan Gannon has had some time to really implement his system on defense. And I think 6 of the 7 players that they drafted this season were defensive players, and they're stockpiling on the defensive side of the ball right now, and they're so young. And we've seen some superstars really emerge on that defense. I mean, Zayvon Collins being one of them, and then you got Budda Baker in the back leading, who's still all pro.
A dog.
He's a dog. And this team has been feisty. The records always haven't been great under Gannon, but this team has been competitive. They've played spoiler late in the season to some teams. They made the Rams look really bad in a game last season. It's just this team has a very high ceiling, I feel. It's just consistency, and it all comes down to the quarterback. And perfect representation of your team is with your quarterback, and that's what Kyler Murray's been. He's had a high ceiling, low floor, no consistency. Marvin Harrison going into year 2. They got James Conner coming back. If there's a dip there, they got Trey Benson backing him up. Trey McBride, arguably top tight end in the league. I mean, him and Browers right now. This team's got what it takes. Their over-under on wins this year is sitting at 8.5. So Vegas feels good about the Cardinals and the NFC West as a whole, because 8.5 is that's the lowest number you're going to find from that division. I think this is a very popular survivor pick this week. I almost went with that, but I ended up taking Denver against Tennessee, which I'm going to get into. I just think the Saints could get boathouse, maybe keep it close, in the first half, but I don't see them holding up against the Cardinals.
Yeah, I mean, not much else to cover. I think I share the same take you got. I mean, I'm going to end it with a question, but yeah, I think with the Cardinals, we always know I think we all know what they have on the offensive side of the ball. Thinking Marvin Harrison could take that leap going into next year. We know that Kyler Murray, for the most part, can carry an offense. He has those games where you're like, dude, what the fuck was he doing? But for the most part, Kyler Murray is, a solid quarterback, and he can make plays and he can make things happen. Their defense was really the question mark, and I think if they can take that step, like you said, another year under Gannon, getting things going on that side of the ball, they can take that leap. And even last year, I think they were just outside that playoff bubble, even not really giving them much of a shot early on in the year. So with the Saints, yeah, it's tough. Again, almost like with the Browns, there's not a whole lot that I think you can be excited about. Kellen Moore, bringing him in, I think is nice. I'm a Kellen Moore fan, so I think that'll be good long term. In the short term, I don't think it makes a difference. So I'm going to end it with a question. If you're a Browns fan and you're a Saints fan, who's got the better outlook over the next 2-3 years? If you're in either one of those fan bases, who should be more excited about the future?
I would say Cleveland, because Stefanski, he could get fired this year, and it's not his fault at all.
Right.
Just because he doesn't have the quarterback. The guy that they brought in, Deshaun Watson, who was supposed to be the savior. Like that was supposed to be his guy, and they've just kind of picking up the pieces at this point. But we know Stefanski's a great coach. We know Andrew Barry is a really good general manager. Like he put together a really good team in Cleveland. Um, can't say the same about the Saints at this point. We don't know about Kellen Moore. I think Kellen Moore is going to be, a good head coach. He's not working with much right now, though, and I just feel good about. While the Browns owner could be, he's another Jerry Jones type where he's just meddling and you don't want to hear from him. So that's a downside. But I think structurally and looking at the rosters, I would feel much more comfortable about the Browns because if you put a quarterback on the Browns right now, let's just think of an average NFL quarterback.
Gino.
All right, that's a good one. Gino. Put Gino on the Browns. I think that team could very well make the playoffs. Put Gino on the Saints. I think they're still finishing third place in the NFC South. Just looking at the rosters respectively. Yeah. But let's move on to that NFC South. Tampa Bay Bucks, Atlanta Falcons. One thing about the NFC South is whenever these teams play, it's going to get rowdy. It's going to get interesting. Tampa Bay is giving up 1.5. These were the top two teams last year from the division that were duking it out. And then obviously Penix comes in, replaced Cousins. Falcons took a dip late in the season, and the Bucks really took off. So the Bucks going to carry that momentum from last year into this year. Who's to know? Right now they're sitting as the favorite. I feel good about the Bucks repeating just because of how good that Baker Mayfield has played and then what Todd Bowles has been able to do with that defense. And the big thing that not a lot of people are talking about is that defense is getting Antoine Winfield back, who's the leader of that defense. They also brought in Hassan Reddick on the defensive side of the ball. And then they drafted Emeka Ibuka in the first round, who they are raving about in the offseason. He's going to fill in right away, fill the shoes for Godwin and McMillan, who are out. Between him and Evans and Bucky Irving in the backfield and the way Baker's played, they should be the favorite. I see some people taking them as, NFC Championship Super Bowls. So this team's got it. They're ready to roll. Atlanta, we don't know what to expect. This is year 2 for Penix. This is year 2 for Raheem Morris. Zach Robinson, offensive coordinator. Their defense they needed a lot of help, and they brought in a lot of young guys through the draft. On the edge, they really loaded up. James Pierce being one of those guys out of Tennessee. What are we going to expect out of him? And really that defense as a whole, that's the question mark for Atlanta is how good is Raheem Morris's unit going to be back there? And can Penix take a leap? Like if Penix can take a leap with the weapons that they have in Atlanta between Pitts, London, Mooney, Bijan in the backfield, their offensive line is very competent. I could see why a lot of people are high on this Falcons team. It's just what do we feel on Penix from right now? But looking at this game, you think Falcons at home getting 1.5? Personally, I kind of like the over 47.5.
Yeah, I think if I had to side, I'd probably go Bucks minus 1.5. I think it's, how often do we have an NFL game that lands on 1, or really 2? 2's not very common either, but it's almost a pick 'em at that point. When you got somebody minus 1.5 or plus 1.5, it's almost a pick 'em. So it's almost, who do you think's going to win? Bucks. I think the Bucks are going to win. I don't know that I saw enough from Penix last year in his limited time playing, and I know it was a small sample size, and he's had a whole offseason to get more comfortable with the offense and blah, blah, blah. But I got to see it from the kid. I haven't seen it yet. I'm one of those guys. I'm one of those guys where it's like I don't have a lot of faith unless I see it. And if I got a sample size of something that wasn't impressive, how am I going to be excited? You know? So he's got potential, and I think Penix can be very good, but I got to see it. Bijan, he can probably carry their team. Just hand it off to Bijan and Algier. Just let them carry you to a W. And I don't know, man. I really like. When I think about their offense, I love Drake, love Bijan and Algier, but like, what the fuck are they doing with Kyle Pitts? Is he gonna do something ever? Is this the year, or is it just gonna be another dud? And then it's like, all right, see you, Kyle. I guess you go to the fucking Eagles and be an all pro. So I don't know. But everything you mentioned about the Bucks on the offensive side of the ball and getting those additions on the defense. Speaking of the Eagles, I'm glad that Reddick's finally able to play because he's actually a very good player. So that's a huge addition to their pass rush. And then getting Winfield back as the leader of that defense. I think that was their thing last year, right? They could score 35 points a game, but they were giving up 30 points a game. So I
No
think they did that
disrespect to
right.
Levante David, because that's the real OG on that defense. But
Yeah.
I mean, getting Winfield back to that secondary is just a massive, massive addition.
Yeah, you got to hand the reins off at some point.
All right. Actually, two teams playing together that I do not feel good about this season. These are two teams that were candidates on taking the unders, and that is the Miami Dolphins at the Indianapolis Colts. Right now, the Dolphins are getting 1.5 over under is 47.5. Miami Dolphins over under on the season is 8.5 wins, which seemed too high for me. This was one that I jumped on, loved the under on this one. And then the Colts, I also love the under just because I do not believe in Daniel Jones at all. I don't believe in Anthony Richardson at this point.
Big mistake.
Quarterback play is everything in the NFL. And if you don't have it there, then you're just not going to win. You're not going to win games. As high as I am on Shane Steichen, as great of a player as Jonathan Taylor is, as respectable as that O-line is, they got some young weapons. Drafted Tyler Warren. He can really help out Daniel Jones, I will say. But this is one of those games this weekend I'm really not. This is kind of falling in the back for me. Honestly, I'm more intrigued by the Panthers Jaguars game than this, just because I don't feel really good about either of these teams. Miami is just, they're a mess, man. It's just drama, 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 and it all starts with just not having a great culture that was brought in by Mike McDaniel. We've just heard some of the things about Jalen Ramsey talking about their culture. And I mean, this team let go of Vic Fangio a couple years ago because the players couldn't accept this coaching. And it's like, okay, so now he goes to the Eagles and he turns them into the best defense in the league because he very well may be. I mean, him and Flores from Minnesota, they're the two best defensive minds probably right now. And oh, by the way, Miami let go of Flores too, because he was too hard. He was too hard on the players, too hard on the quarterback. So, I mean, you sign up for dumb shit, you're gonna win stupid prizes, and I just feel like that's what the Dolphins are at this point. They wanted, this glamour and speed and showtime roster, and it hasn't held up. They're not tough. I love their under on this season. I mean, there's so many question marks. That defense really lost a lot these last couple of years. I mean, losing Javon Holland and Jalen Ramsey on that defense, among many others. I mean, I could go down the line right now just looking at their, adds and drops for the season. I don't see their defense being good, Tyler. I see a lot of pressure being put on Tua. And it's like when these defenses have known what to expect from Miami when they're just going cover two deep, and taking away, the splash plays from Tyreek and Waddle and forcing Tua to beat him underneath. You just haven't been able to do it when they've been trailing in these games and have to come back. And I just think there's going to be a lot of that this year. Defense is going to put them in some holes. And like I said, I don't feel good about them. I don't feel good about the Colts either. This game, I'm staying the hell away from.
Mhm.
I mean, a point and a half, whether it's even, whatever, I have no idea what to expect. Daniel Jones' first start in Indianapolis. And I feel like whoever the winner of this game is, there's going to be a lot of hype. The fan base is going to be really excited. And we're 1-0, blah blah blah. But I'm just going to be sitting here and like, yeah, you're not gonna. I mean, the team you beat is just bad. You're just 1-0 after beating a bad team. That's how I feel about this game. But go ahead.
I don't think I'm as down on Miami as a lot of other people are, just due to what they have offensively. Um, I think that McDaniels is good enough. I think he's smart enough, and um, just his mindset for the offensive side of the ball. I think that he can make the adjustments, and when you give him Waddle, Tyreek Hill, Achan, and a decent quarterback, as long as Tua can stay healthy, I think he's going to make it work. It's just, as you mentioned, everything, all that turnover on the defensive side of the ball, that is the glaring weakness. I don't know that it's fixable. I don't have any confidence that they're going to hold anybody under 20 points. So I think they're going to have to they're going to have to be like the Bengals of last year, right? They're going to have to score 35 points a game to win a game, possibly, unless they pull something out of their ass and, I don't know, have some sort of miracle working on the other side of the ball. But I don't know. Indy's tough too, man. I really these are they have the two quarterbacks I've invested a lot of stock in. Not not that I've invested a ton in Danny Dimes, but I think people who know me always know, for no reason, I've always backed Daniel Jones. Not that I had any reason to. I just think that he's not as terrible as everyone thought he was, and I'm kind of like hoping that he has a decent start in Indy and then tweaks an ankle. Nothing bad, just enough to give Anthony Richardson a couple starts, and then Richardson takes off. I need that for fantasy purposes. So that's what I'm secretly hoping for.
Well, if you look at the roster, I mean, kind of like the Browns, the Colts got a good roster. Like I don't want to talk shit on the roster. It's just the quarterback is the big question mark, and it has been ever since Andrew Luck retired suddenly. Like they've just kind of been going on the fly since then. I mean, we've seen Phillip Rivers, we've seen Matt Ryan, we've seen Gardner Minshew. I mean, draft Anthony Richardson top 5, and just none of it has really worked out. So it's been unfortunate for them because they have had a good roster, and you've had Jonathan Taylor in his prime. You've had an O-line that was in their prime, and now I think they're not the same level as they once were, it's unfortunate. And then just briefly talking about Miami, I'm not talking about Mike McDaniel. Everybody knows the guy can call plays. The guy's an offensive wizard. He's all of that. He's shown time and time again that, he's one of these offensive geniuses. Okay. But as a head coach, as a leader of men, as a culture builder, he has failed. He's failed Miami. I mean, you got guys showing up late to meetings knowing that nothing's going to happen to them. There's no accountability. There's no discipline. And as an NFL franchise, without those things, I mean, those are the fundamentals. Those are the basics. That's what you get. I mean, even the bad teams, obviously the dumpster fire organizations, you'll have a lot of that, and that's kind of what Miami's felt like. We've had all this drama, the Tyreek Hill drama, the Jalen Ramsey drama. McDaniel just kind of, he just doesn't seem serious to me. I don't buy him as a head coach. So
Stock's down.
yeah, I just want to talk. I think he's a prime candidate to be the first coach fired this year, but we'll see what happens. And then Tyreek Hill getting traded.
Yeah.
Las Vegas Raiders
There it is.
at the New England Patriots.
Oh.
Tom Brady calling the shots for the Raiders. Pete Carroll on the sideline with Chip Kelly. Geno Smith and Ashton Genty in the backfield. Going against Mike Vrabel, making his debut, head coach for the Patriots, and a new look Patriots roster who made a ton of moves in the offseason, spent a lot of money. They had a top pick, took an offensive lineman that they desperately needed.
Yep.
This game's got some juice to it. This is another one that I'm circling just because it feels like both of these organizations are really turning a corner right now. And I know no wins have shown for it, but you could just tell like the feeling
Not yet.
coming out, just reports that they've heard about. I mean, you're going to get that from head coaches. We talk about McDaniel not being able to build the culture. That's exactly what Pete Carroll does. That's exactly what Mike Vrabel does. We saw Pete Carroll do that in Seattle and how good they were for years. We saw what Mike Vrabel did with an underwhelming Titans roster for years and no quarterback. So this game is really exciting for me just because there's so much new on both sides. And then Drake May coming back year 2. He's got Josh McDaniels calling the plays now. I feel like that hasn't been talked about enough. Is you got Josh McDaniels back in New England. I feel like that right there raises their floor. Their offensive floor last season when you look at Brissett going into week 1 with Alex Van Pelt calling the plays and Gerard Mayo as the head coach. I mean, the Patriots floor is like down here with that crew. Now you got year 2 Drake May. You got Stephon Diggs, who you brought in. You got a real quality number 1 receiver. You drafted Travion Henderson, who I know very well at Ohio State. He's a complete weapon, fast as hell. Him to complement Stevenson. And you got Mike Vrabel. And then on top of all the defensive additions that they made in free agency, I feel good about the Patriots this season. And then talking about the Raiders, I feel good about that. Their division is just so hard, and the AFC as a whole, it's going to be tough. It's going to be really tough for the Raiders to grind out wins. But I think you're gonna tell right away week 1 that these are not the same Raiders and these are not the same Patriots. These are two completely different teams with different feels, and they're going to be out there competing. I love this matchup. This is another one where it's really tough. It's really tough to pick a side.
2.5.
This might 2.5 is the number. 44.5 is the over under. This is that game that I don't really want to bet on just because I want to enjoy it. I want to enjoy this game between the Raiders, Geno making his first start for him, Pete going against Vrabel. A lot of implications. You got Brady. Maybe he'll be in the press box at Gillette with a Raiders hat on.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I think that these are two very, very interesting teams going into week 1. You bring in 2 head coaches that I think most people are high on. I don't think you can. I know Vrabel was fired from Tennessee, but it was one of those situations where I think Tennessee's ownership fucked up. You should have never got rid of Vrabel. Pete Carroll retired. He came out of retirement. He's always been good. Obviously won a Super Bowl with Seattle. So, both of these guys, as you mentioned, are going to build cultures where I think both teams were lacking the last couple years. And Vegas finally has a quarterback. He's not top 10, but he's serviceable, right? Like he's a solid quarterback. And bringing in Genty, I think Bauer's going into year 2 and actually having a quarterback. No offense to Gardner Minshew, but I'm excited to see that. I know the Raiders don't have a ton of weapons on the outside. Jacoby Myers is one of those all around receivers who's not really he doesn't wow you in any way, shape, or form, but he's just a solid guy. He's not. I don't think he's a number one on many other offenses in the league, but he is on this one. So it, for the Patriots, though, I think that there's a lot to be excited about with Drake May going in year 2 and bringing Vrabel in, McDaniels. McDaniels was raving about Henderson all offseason. So I think having him and Ramondre Stevenson and even Gibson back there, like they have a good backfield. I think that's going to be very solid. 2.5. I think the play is taking the Patriots just because they're at home. Take them to win by a field goal at home. Week 1. If otherwise it's a pass. I don't feel very strongly about it. I'd throw maybe a half unit on this one, but if I had to take a side, I would take New England -2.5.
Carolina Panthers getting 3.5 on the road in Duval. Liam Cohen making his debut as the Jags head coach. Travis Hunter. I'm excited about this game. Talk about Patriots Raiders. This is another game I don't think is getting enough juice, in the media. This one is I'm very hype about.
Yeah, fucking lights the wait. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I think it's put up or shut up time for Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville. I mean, you got the guy and Liam Cohen. They paid him a lot of money to come in. You got Brian Thomas going into year 2, who was an absolute monster last year, even with Mac Jones throwing the pill to him. So draft Travis Hunter. The defense they think is going to be improved. But looking at this game, Panthers-Jags, these are 2 of the bottom 3 defenses from a year ago. So it's like how much better are those units really going to be right now? I expect both not to be really great, especially in the secondary. Obviously, you bring in Travis Hunter to fix that, and we'll see. I'm really interested. Part of the reason why I'm interested to see this game is just to see how much action he's going to get at receiver, corner. Are we going to see him on both sides of the ball at all? And how many snaps? Because it's going to be tough to go a whole season playing both sides of the ball. I'm just curious to see really how the Jags are going to divvy that up. I do like this game. I mean, 3.5 for Carolina. If I had to take a side, I would certainly take that. I feel okay about that, but I really like the over. I like the over-under sitting at 46.5 right now. I just feel like there's firepower on both these offenses. I think McMillan's going to be really good for Carolina. I have no doubt that he's going to step in right away, and he's going to be a number 1, I think. Obviously, they're dealing with injury with Coker. He's going to be out for a while, but you got Xavier Legette coming back year 2. And then Chuba Hubbard. He was a monster last year. So Chuba Hubbard, Jacksonville, their weapons, Brian Thomas, Hunter. They got a 3-headed monster in the backfield. We're going to see how that all plays out with the rookie Tootin going in with ETN and Bigsby. We don't really know what that's going to look like, but I think between how both offensive coaches, defenses are not good, I really think that number is too low, and 46.5, and I really like the over, and that's why I'm excited to watch this game, is because I think there can be some fireworks.
Yeah, no, I think there is a lot to look forward to. I think on both fan bases, really. Looking at that number of 3.5, I kind of like Carolina getting 3.5 there.
Yeah. The way I'm seeing it is you look at both these teams, look at both these teams, and it's like, is the Jags 3.5 points better than Carolina?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see it. I don't see them being 3.5 points better than Carolina. I think Carolina really came out at the end of last season, and I think it might take It might take a little bit for Lawrence and Cohen to really get going with this offense, but I like the over because, like I said, Carolina's defense was really bad last year, and I don't think they're going to be good this year. Same with the Jags. That's really what it comes down to for me is two bad defenses. But yeah, to your point, if anything, I'm taking the points in this game. I'm taking the 3.5.
Right. Exactly. But yeah,
But how are you
I don't.
feeling? How are you feeling about these two teams as a whole? Because these two teams are popular sleeper picks to win their divisions, the respective Souths. I mean, NFC South, AFC South. We've seen crazy things happen in years past, and they're not. Do you think either of these teams really has a shot to contend for the division this season?
I think if it's one, it'd be the Jags, just because of the potential from Cohen and what he can bring to the table for that offense and just getting Trevor back on track. I think we've seen Trevor do it before. That's the thing. We've seen him do it before. We've seen him take this team to the playoffs, and we've seen him be a top 10 quarterback before earlier in his career. He's ran into some injury issues over the last few years and hasn't played up to anybody's expectations. So I think if you can get Trevor back at his best, they have the best shot at being the sleeper team to win their division. I think Carolina just has too many holes on the defensive end, but I think I like what they're building there, and I think that next year, I don't think they're going to get Jonathan Brooks back this year, so I think having him next year, getting a couple more players on the defensive side of the ball, getting Bryce Young another year under his belt, gaining more chemistry with those young receivers. I think Carolina's time is coming. It's just not this year.
Yeah, and to your point, do me a favor, I'm trying to find the Jags, what their future is for division winner, what their odds are. I'm having a trouble finding it right. Oh, I see it. All right. AFC South. Jaguars are plus 270. So that is they're the second favorite from a betting odds perspective.
What is it? Is Houston one?
Yeah, Houston's plus 105, and then the Colts are plus 425. Titans are plus 650. I want to get to them. But yeah, I was just curious to look at that after I asked the question. But yeah, like I said, I'm excited for this game. Should be a dandy up in Duval. Speaking of those Tennessee Titans, Cam Ward making his first career start at Bo Nix, Sean Payton, the Denver Broncos, who really came on last season. End of last season, they looked like a completely different team. That defense was buzzing. You could really see Bo Nix picking things up offensively and getting better and better week by week. A lot of hype on the Denver Broncos going into this season, and I am drinking all the Kool-Aid on them. I'm going to get into some futures that I like later on, but Denver Broncos, I think, they're a prime candidate. They're a prime candidate to dethrone Kansas City just because of defensive side of the ball, what they're running with right now. They just gave Bonito an extension yesterday, so that's huge for them. And then how good that their offense became at the end of last season with Bo Nix. Like I said, he just started. You could just see the growth week by week last season, and it's like last year when they made it to the playoffs and they played in Buffalo. I mean, they weren't no slouch. A lot of people expected them to go out and get blown out by the Bills, but they were hanging with them. And Nix made some really great throws, really great plays in that game. I think that there is potential for a sophomore slump, but I just think he has such an advantage with Sean Payton and that defense that I think he's only going to get better. I think he's only going to get better as everything becomes more familiar to him. They draft RJ Harvey, replace Javonte Williams with him. They still got Jaleel McLaughlin, and then they also brought in J.K. Dobbins. So another underrated addition was bringing in Evan Ingram at tight end. I think that's huge for them because I think that's a position that they've really been lacking these last few years. And the receiving core led by Cortland Sutton and a lot of young guys who are very talented. And just take it from them. They traded they traded Valet a couple weeks ago to New Orleans because they feel so good about the rest of the room, and they're deep in that room. They're deep and they're young. So I think there's a lot of potential for this Denver Broncos team to make a run this season. And then going to the Titans, I just think we're talking about maybe playing the number one defense on the road at high altitude elevation for your first career NFL start. That everything is stacking up against you. Also on a team that was bad enough to earn the number one pick in the draft with a head coach that we really don't know. We don't know if he's competent or not because the Titans were they were a mess last year. I know a lot of it is credited to Will Levis and poor decisions that he made and just giving the game away and such. But we don't know. We don't know about Brian Callahan, which is why this could be another letdown season for the Titans. Personally, I like their defense a lot more than others. I think their defense played pretty well last season, given the circumstances of their just incompetent quarterback play. They were just put in bad situation after bad situation after bad situation last year, and it really hurt them. And when you're on the field all the time as a defense, it doesn't matter how good you are, you're going to end up just breaking down and getting worked by the offense, whoever it may be. So they got the talent on offense. They got some weapons, young receivers, Ridley, Tony Pollard, and then obviously Cam Ward in there for Will Levis. I think that this Titans team, over-under sitting at 5.5, I think they are better than that in the end. I could see this Titans team winning 6 games, especially with that division. I think that division could get really weird, and you could definitely split some games within that division. But this game, this is bang, bang, Denver Broncos. Even the 8.5, I think I may give it up because I just think this is a nightmare for as talented as I think Cam Ward is. And I think he's going to be good. I think he's going to be good this season. He's going to put up some good numbers. I just think this is too high of a mountain to climb in your first start going against this defense, reigning defensive player of the year, best corner in the league. And then with that pass rush, I love Denver in this game, and I love Denver this season.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, and I think that it is a really bad spot to be Cam Ward. Just again on the road against that defense in Denver, especially. So it's a very tough spot to be in your first NFL game. The way that my brain is thinking about this is like, okay, let's take Will Levis against this same team, against this Denver Broncos right now. And then let's say Will Levis had one of his better games. Like he didn't fuck up. He just had one of his better games of the season. Do you think the Titans with a good Will Levis game cover 8.5? Do you think they can be given they're getting 8.5? Do you think they cover that?
I mean, I think it's possible.
Right. So that is where that's what I keep going back to. I think that Cam Ward's floor is Will Levis's better games. I think if Cam Ward can come in and just have an okay game and play decent, I think that they can cover that 8.5 because I'm with you. I don't think their defense is that bad. I know that Denver is good, and I know that they have a lot of hype. I just don't, I like the duo of J.K. Dobbins and R.J. Harvey. I love Sutton. Evan Ingram, as you mentioned, is a sleeper pickup for them. So on the offensive side of the ball with Sean Payton, I think that they can make a lot happen. But week 1, as we mentioned earlier, you never really know what to expect, and sometimes it takes a little bit for the wheels to turn for some teams. So I don't know. Again, 8.5 is just a lot. So
it is.
I think I would have to side with the points on this, but I wouldn't be surprised if Denver won by 3 possessions.
Yeah, it's really tough. I mean, 8.5 is a lot of points, and I'd say 90% of the time when it's that high, I'm gonna take the points. I just don't. There's so many uncertainties with Tennessee right now, and then so many certainties with Denver. I feel personally that that's where my mindset is. But yeah, interesting comparison with the Will Levis
I
divisional
like it.
matchup. San Francisco 49ers with a up in the air Christian McCaffrey and a depleted wide receiver core going on the road at Seattle. And they are favored 1.5. I just want to say that, like Denver, I am very high on Seattle this year. And it's
Are you?
not really, it doesn't really have anything to do with Darnold. I think Geno Darnold is kind of a wash.
Trade
I
off.
think they're kind of the same there. I think that with an improved offensive line and in year two in that defensive system, they're gonna be a really improved team. And I mean, this team won 10 games last year. People forget 10 games and they missed the playoffs with Geno Smith. So I like the Seahawks in this one at home. And I'm going to be hyping up the Seahawks defense a lot this year, I feel, because I think they're only going to get better and better as they get more familiar with that scheme and Mike McDonald. And I just think there's too many question marks with the 49ers. The receiving core, Ayuk's going to be out for a while. I mean, there's been questions on Jennings. Demarcus Robinson suspended. Now you got Christian McCaffrey with calf issue. And hey, we heard about it's. You could think it's no big deal, but that's kind of how it all started last year. And then the dominoes started falling after that. And then before you know it, I mean, they didn't have Christian McCaffrey. So obviously a big question mark there. I love the Seahawks in this spot. And I'm kind of surprised that the 49ers are favored, to be honest with you. I just think that there's a little too much respect put on the 49ers right now. They're over under for the season sitting at 10.5. I don't think that defense is what it once was. Bosa's getting older. Warner's getting older. While they're two great players, the supporting cast around them just isn't the same. And then guys I forgot to mention, Greenlaw and Hufanga, who were once there, are now on that Denver defense, by the way. I just don't think this 49ers defense is what it once was. And I know they get Salah back to run that defense, so they're going to get better as the year goes on. But I think week one, there's a lot of questions there. And then obviously you're going in with maybe Ricky Pearsall as your number one. If Jennings can't play for week one, it's going to be interesting. And then Seattle showed a lot of potential on both sides of the ball last season, and I expect them to just really pound the rock between Walker and Charbonnet and then use that play action with Darnold, who he's very effective in that play action game. We saw it last year in Minnesota. Smith and Jigma, I feel great about him as a number one. They brought in Kupp, and then they got a lot of young weapons, and then just guys like Valdez-Scantling to throw in there as well. I love the Seahawks in this game, and I love the Seahawks this season. I would take their over-under at 8.5.
Yeah, it's kind of hard with all the question marks right now and all the uncertainties on the 49ers offensive side of the ball. Is like it's kind of hard to side with them. I think if McCaffrey doesn't play, I don't know how this number doesn't flip. I think right now with the way the books are sitting, they're expecting McCaffrey to play. He was limited. So he didn't miss practice, but he was limited yesterday. So the way I want to process this is that they're giving him some veteran time off, but it's also going into week one of the regular season where he might need to carry the ball 30 times. Who's backing him up? Because Jordan Mason's in Minnesota now.
So you got Brian Robinson that they traded
Oh,
for.
yes.
And then Garendo is still there.
Oh, I don't know why I forgot about Brian Robinson. I literally took him in 2 drafts to handcuff McCaffrey. So bit of
and it's smart on their part. maybe not smart actually getting rid of Jordan Mason when you know that this is always a possibility with McCaffrey, and you saw Mason
Yeah.
fill in that role so well. Um, but I think they recognized that it was a mistake when they did it, and that's when they made the move for Brian Robinson, who he was going to get moved out of Washington either way. So, I mean, they ended up getting a pick for him. It's going to be interesting to see how it shakes out. Obviously, we want to see McCaffrey out there and healthy because he's just a dynamic player, and we don't really know how many more years we're going to get left of him. And he's a fun
Right.
guy to watch. So I hope everything works out for them.
Do you?
Even it being the 49ers, just for, entertainment
Yeah.
aspect. And I want to beat the best. You know what I mean? I don't want to beat a 49ers team without McCaffrey, without Ayuk. Kittle gets
Mhm.
hurt. I don't want that. I want to beat them at their best because, and hopefully they feel the same way. Hopefully they want to beat us with Stafford out there.
Yeah. So I guess where I'm at with it right now is if McCaffrey plays, I probably stay away from this one. If McCaffrey doesn't play, yeah, I'm all over Seattle.
Juicy matchup.
Oh, oh,
Detroit Lions going to Lambeau against the Green Bay Packers, and those Lions who went 15-2 from a year ago, won the division, number 1 seed, are getting 2.5 points on the road in Green Bay. Obviously, there's a lot of hype. Green Bay bringing in Micah Parsons, and personally, I felt great about this team even before that move. I had a future locked in for them winning the division, and then obviously Micah Parsons comes in, and that's when you see the Lions change, and the Lions were no longer the favorite, and you saw the Packers come up to be the favorite. So I feel great about the Packers this year. I know there's question marks about the receiving core. They're young. And the guys that have been there just haven't been able to stay healthy. Christian Watson, Jaden Reed, Wicks, Dobbs, all these guys haven't been healthy. They finally went out and they spent a top pick on a receiver, bringing in Matthew Golden, who I think is going to be an absolute dog right away. I think you're going to really, feel his presence out there, and he's going to emerge to be a star just because of the opportunity that he's going to be given in that Matt LaFleur offense with Jordan Love, who I feel good about Jordan Love. I don't see last year as really a step back for him. I just think that he was dealing with injuries, and he after that week 1 injury that he had, I don't think he was fully 100% the rest of the season. After that, I just felt he was a little off. So you got him fully healthy going into the season with a defense that should be very much improved. They were good last year with a new DC, and now you got Micah Parsons in the mix on the opposite side of Rashawn Gary. That's a scary duo. And then offense, Josh Jacobs, Jordan Love, young receiving core that I do like if they could stay healthy. Tucker Kraft at tight end, capable offensive line, more than capable play caller. This team's got it. There are a lot of people's Super Bowl pick coming out of the NFC right now. So a lot of hype on Green Bay, but we can't forget about Detroit. I know they lost both coordinators, Ben Johnson, Aaron Glenn, but this team is still very good. They're still very talented. And they have a defense that isn't missing, I don't know, 6 or 7 starters right now. Like, this team was so depleted by the end of last year that when they got in the playoffs, they just got guys that they signed off the street playing in the playoffs against Jane Daniels and the Commanders, and they just got lit up. So I think health is huge for the Detroit Lions, just having that on the defensive side of the ball. I know they're going to be missing Aaron Glenn, but this team's still going to be a force this year, and they should not get overlooked. This one, I think this is another over. I think 46.5. I think that week 1, as good as we feel about, the Lions defense getting better and then the Packers defense this season, I just think that this is a spot where a lot of points can be scored between Jared Goff and Jordan Love. I think this could be a fun shootout, and I'd have to take the over in this one.
yeah. I don't. Tough one for me. I think 2.5 is probably the perfect number here. It is tough losing both coordinators, as you mentioned, and I think there's just a lot of talent Hutchinson, is he back yet? Or is he going to be like a middle of the year?
That's a good question. Continue your point. Let me look it up.
Because he's obviously, I don't want to say he's the anchor of that defense, but if he's playing, obviously that can it makes a huge difference when you have someone like that coming off the edge. So again, they just have so much firepower on the offensive side of the ball that even though they lost Ben Johnson, you still can't count them out to be a top 5, top 8 unit in the NFL. You pair that with getting healthy on defense, and it's this division is going to be one of those divisions. A top 2, top 3 division race. I think towards the end of the year, as it was last year. I don't think that the Vikings are going to be in the mix like that as they were last year. You never know, of course, but as far as this game goes, though, it's tough. I want to stay away from this one. I think if I had to take a side, though, I'd probably go with the Packers -2.5 just because they are at home, and it's really it. That's really it. No Hutch.
If Hutchinson is playing, which I just looked up, and he is healthy, I didn't see anything about injury holding him out right now, so he looks ready to roll. Does that change your mind at all?
Yeah, it makes me think a little harder. I try not to think too hard at my old age, but I don't know. I probably am going to stay away from this one, just to be honest with you. Jaden Reed, I think, is still hurt. It's just Golden. Who knows if Christian Watson's there healthy? Yeah,
Wicks.
I don't know.
Kraft and those tight ends, they're deep at tight end though, and then
That's
that run game.
that's the thing. Every time I talk to someone about the Packers, I'm like, their wide receiver, until they got Golden, right? Their wide receiver core is full of a bunch of twos. It's just twos and threes. A lot of receivers who are average. They can have good games. I think Jaden Reed is the one that I like the most out of them all. I think he can do a little bit of everything. He's probably the most explosive. I know Watson was that deep ball guy in his rookie year, but last year was a tough year for him. And if he bounces back, that's going to be huge. But I think Golden can step in and almost just be their number one right away.
That's what I expect.
Yeah. So again, if I had to take a side, I would go Green Bay here, even if Parsons wasn't playing, and if Hutchinson was playing, still go Green Bay.
Houston Texans going on the road to face my Los Angeles Rams. They are getting 3 points. Over under is sitting at 43.5. Obviously, Joe Mixon, he's on the pup right now. We don't really know the status of him on this year, how much he's going to play. Receiving core is Nico is healthy, but after Nico, Christian Kirk looks to be out, and then you got a lot of young guys to fill in while Tank Dell's out. Defense on Houston, though, was very good last year. I expect Houston's defense to be very good again. Rams defense, elite at the end of last season. We really saw Jared Verse take off. Him and Braden Fisk up front were just wrecking balls. I think the Rams defense is going to be very good as well. Pair that with Stafford not having a full offseason out there, dealing with back injury, paired with what's Houston going to do on the ground? You brought in Nick Chubb, but what's Nick Chubb at this stage of his career?
Fair.
I love the under in this game. I love under 43.5 in this game. Houston, I think Houston wins the division. Just talking about, looking out a little bit in the future. And I think if Stafford is healthy for the duration of the season, I think the Rams should be the favorite in the NFC West. I just think it all comes down to that. If he's out there, I think they win the division and they're in a Super Bowl bubble. But obviously a big question mark, big concern of mine is, back injury is no joke, especially at his age. It's something that can always creep back up on you. So I have a lot of concerns with that. But just looking at this game individually, I'm all on the under.
Yeah, I am all over the Rams. Give me the Rams. -3. Don't care about Stafford getting some time off. I call that the old veteran gift, back injury. So no, I'm sure that it was a serious issue at least internally. But if Stafford's healthy and he is going, you give him two top 10 receivers with that run game behind Kyron and a couple of the additions that they made. I think that rookie tight end is going to be solid as well. You pair him up. So I like everything that they got going on. You get Puka and Devontae Adams. I think that's probably, no slight to Cooper Cup, but I think it's just a little bit
It's an
different.
upgrade for sure. It's an
Yeah, I think
upgrade.
so. I think this is the best duo, maybe the best overall weapons that Stafford has had in maybe his career. Arguably, it's up there. Um, so I expect a lot from them this year on the offensive side of the ball. Hey, can they get Corum more involved? Do you think?
We'll see.
I wish they would. That's my dog. But yeah, I don't know. I just like them. I think that, as you mentioned, with Joe Mixon being out, I hope Chubb can be a former uh, shell. I don't know if he's a shell of himself, but I'm hoping he can get some of that old form back and just be decent. Uh, excuse me. So Nico Collins is probably going to have to, have 175 yards every game. I don't know who else they have. They traded Mechie to the Eagles. Christian Kirk coming in. Other than that, is Tank Dell healthy?
No, he's out.
Hmm, go figure. So yeah, it's gonna be
They
it's
got
gonna be a tough game.
Noel, two rookies, Noel and Higgins. So those two guys are going to be
Jaden
they're going to
Higgins.
play big roles right
I
off the
heard
bat.
I've been hearing good things about Higgins. Um, any relation to T?
No, I don't think so.
No, then fuck him. Give me the Rams -3.
Sunday night football in Buffalo, rematch of a very entertaining playoff game last season. Two MVP candidate quarterbacks, the reigning MVP, Josh Allen taking on Lamar Jackson. Ravens Bills. Right now, the Ravens are favored on the road by 1.5. Over under sitting at 50.5, respectively. Obviously, they expect a lot of fireworks, and so do I in this game between both talents at quarterback. I think it's a little disrespectful. Um, the Bills being at home, Sunday night opener, the way that place is going to be rocking, them coming out as a dog. And I have tremendous respect for the Ravens. I've had them in my last couple Super Bowl futures, and I'll probably do it again this year just because of how good I feel about that roster and Lamar Jackson and Harbaugh. We know it's the same drill with them, not getting it done in the playoffs, critical error costing them. But this game, I would have to side with Buffalo getting the points at home. I know it's not much, it's basically a pick 'em. Obviously, the over could be a big play here. I don't care if it's 50.5, 51.5, 52.5, whatever. I think there's gonna be a lot of fireworks in this game. So exciting Sunday night matchup. I don't feel too strongly either way. I'm very excited for it.
Yeah, I think I'm right there with you. Um, the only thing I think that I need to see first is the Bills' defense. I like the leadership and the veteran presence that they do have on the defensive side of the ball. I just want to see it all mesh before I can take them in a game against the team like the Ravens. I mean, they're getting a point and a half, so that's nice. But it's kind of like I mentioned earlier with the whole point and a half. How often do games land on one or even two? So it's almost to pick them at this point. So I probably would have to go with. I would side with the Ravens on this one, just because of the question marks on the defensive side of the ball. At least for me, again, I like the veteran presence, but I want to see it all meshed together.
I smell a prop heavy bet for this one.
Yeah.
Can't spot it right now, but I just think there's so many between Josh Allen and Lamar. I think there's a lot that's going to happen. So probably have to throw in the old same game parlay for this one, put some props together, but we'll see what happens. Very very entertaining opening Sunday night game. Great job by the NFL scheduling that.
Yeah.
Capping off Monday Night Football, Minnesota Vikings, JJ McCarthy making his debut on the road in Chicago against Ben Johnson, Caleb Williams, and the Chicago Bears. Bears are getting 1.5 right now at home. A lot of uncertainty right now in Minnesota. And I know going into last year, nobody was high on them. With Sam Darnold playing quarterback, and it's kind of that same feeling right now where it's like we know the roster and the coaching staff is great, but we don't know what the quarterback's going to look like. And to break it to those people, Kevin O'Connell is what you call a quarterback guru. We've seen it time and time again. Whoever steps foot under center for the Minnesota Vikings in his tenure has been good, whether it's Josh Dobbs coming in to fill in, Nick Mullins coming in to fill in, or Sam Darnold coming in off the street, who everybody thought was a throwaway at that point. And he just came out and lit it up last season. So, I mean, between Kevin O'Connell's brilliance on the offensive side of the ball and Brian Flores on the defensive side of the ball, I mean, they might have the best combination of offensive, defensive coaching in the NFL. So you can't overlook that when it comes to evaluating or predicting what JJ McCarthy can become. I think it's going to take some strides. There's going to have to be some real growth here throughout this season for him. I don't expect him to come out and light it up right away. You know, not having a start and then not even playing for a full year after, you know, you get drafted and then you're out for a whole season, just not playing football. So, I mean, that's got to take a toll on you. How do you bounce back from that? The one thing I'm betting on, though, with JJ McCarthy is the structure that he has, Minnesota with Kevin O'Connell, and then obviously the weapons that they have on that offense between Jefferson, arguably the best receiver in the league. You bring in Adam Thielen to fill in for Jordan Addison while he's out with suspension. You got Aaron Jones, Jordan Mason in the backfield, TJ Hawkinson at tight end, very capable offensive line, good tackles. And then I already talked about the defense. They weren't good on paper when Flores got there, and he completely turned them around. I mean, they were a bottom defense when he took the job, and you could tell right away that his impact was felt. And he's had some time now to bring in some guys on that defense, so I think that Vikings defense is only going to be better than they were before. Chicago, they've been the talk of the town around the league this offseason with Ben Johnson coming in. Ton of expectations, complete culture reboot with Caleb Williams now in year 2. And it's kind of as unfortunate as it might be for Caleb Williams. There's a lot of pressure on the kid going into year 2. He took the brunt of it last season, and a lot of it I don't think was deserved just because of the situation that he was put in with Eberflus and Thomas Brown and that Bears coaching staff. He wasn't set up to succeed last season, and now he is with Ben Johnson. So like JJ McCarthy in Minnesota, I expect some growing pains in Chicago. I think it's going to take some time for Caleb to really get the system down and the timing down that Ben Johnson needs from him, because a lot of what Caleb has done to get to this point is kind of play freelance quarterback. And we've seen him make all these spectacular plays. We've seen the arm strength, the arm talent, the different angles he can use. But with Ben Johnson, it's all on it's all predicated to the system and your timing. So can he succeed in that, and can he succeed with dissecting defenses from the pocket? That's remained to be seen. I mean, they went all out on their offensive line this offseason, which needed to happen. He got bruised and battered all last season. So that's huge for them, is giving him, the protection up front. I like Swift at running back. They brought in Kyle Manage, rookie running back in the draft, and then Roshan Johnson. And then obviously with the outside, you got DJ, you got Rome, you draft Luther Burden, you got Zacchaeus in there from Washington, a player who I really like and I think is underrated in the league. And the tight ends, you draft Colson Lovin with your first round pick, who was an absolute stud at Michigan, and you pair him with Cole Kmet. A lot of people would say you don't even need a tight end because Cole Kmet's a good tight end, and they just doubled up on it. So expect a lot of 12 personnel, 2 tight ends on the field for them. Going to be exciting. Does their defense take a step back in a new system with Dennis Allen? Does it take some time? I like Dennis Allen as a defensive coordinator. We never liked him as the head coach of the Saints just because it wasn't him. He's a one-sided guy, just kind of like Eberflus was, their former head coach. So a lot of new between this Vikings-Bears matchup, which makes it hard. It makes it really hard to pick a side. Just too much unknown, uncertainty. But like I said, that Sunday night game between Bills-Ravens is another one where primetime NFL did a great job getting this one right. I love it. I love this Vikings-Bears matchup for week 1.
Yeah. I think you covered that really well. There's not much for me to add. I think that it is going to be exciting to see the growth from JJ. Obviously, I wasn't, being a Michigan fan, even coming into the draft, when they took him it was 11 or 12, wherever it was, they got him in the first round. I was like, really? I thought when we did our mock last year, I had the Vikings going Kenyon Mitchell. And he obviously fell to the Eagles, and now everyone's like, oh, he's so good. And JJ went higher than I thought just because his time at Michigan, he wasn't really asked to do a whole lot. It was a lot of just handing the ball off, play action, roll out, use your feet. He did make throws. Obviously, he won the championship. He won the Natty. So he has the potential. I just didn't expect him to go that high in the first round. And I think that he's one of those guys who's going to need a little time. And maybe, like you mentioned with O'Connell being the quarterback guru he is, maybe he doesn't need that much time. So I think it's going to be interesting to watch how that unfolds. And then on the flip side, same thing with that relationship between Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams, who my stock is up here with Caleb. It was up coming out just because of the arm talent that he has. And now you pair him up with Ben Johnson. And I just think that, the sky's the limit for him. And as you mentioned, it might take some time to get there, but I am confident that it will get there. I think that with them being at home in this matchup, I like the Bears in this one. I think that I'm going to take Caleb in year 2 over JJ, basically coming into his rookie year after being out all last year. Not seeing any action. In Chicago, give me the Bears.
The Bears.
Yep.
All right. Well, that's it, Tyler. That's the whole week 1 slate.
We did it.
We got through it. We are officially back. And it feels good to be back, Mo.
Hey, what do we want to give the people? What do we think? We want to do Wednesday, Friday. I don't know. Do we want to get out ahead of the Thursday or after the Thursday? What are we thinking?
I think we should get out ahead of it.
Yeah, just do like a Tuesday, Wednesday. Little recap preview.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll figure all that out.
Yeah. Well, I really want to hear from Todd.
I kind of like doing the Thursday night recap too in these. So maybe Tuesday, Friday. I don't know. We'll get into it.
Again,
but that is it. That is it for our week 1 NFL preview. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We will see you next week. Goodbye.
Peace.
When I come to your city, I'm a new score. Broke your high score soon as I step through the door. Tryna stack my paper up like a bookstore. Money kissing each other like a rock and roll tour. When I come to your city, I'm a new score. Broke your high score soon as I step through the door. Tryna stack my paper up like a bookstore. Money kissing each other like